I love that on Facebook Live, everyone talks usually about, are we alive yet? Are we live yet?
Oh, we're on Facebook Live?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Thought this was gonna get
200 of our followers right now.
Oh, hey, y'all.
About 5 of them are getting the notification.
Oh, how do I share it?
Oh, you can go on to the Outstanding Women Leaders right now and share this live.
Okay.
And we are officially live. So welcome to the Outstanding Women Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Katie, and Kristen is here, and we have some amazing women on today. Our topic is her story. And as always, this top conversation is a sandbox, which means that you're going to play. You can kick around some sand. You can interrupt each other if you want. There's no problem that we're trying to solve. We're just having a conversation and getting people excited about just listening to people. I think really listening. Kristen is going to kick us off a little bit with a comment today as well, because we filmed an episode, and I'll let Kristen tell you about that and some of the feedback we've had.
Yeah, so Katie and I filmed an episode maybe a couple days ago about, it was titled, How to Use Your Privilege for Good. And Katie talks a little bit about her white privilege, and I talk a little bit, I mean, even as a minority woman, it's not lost on me that I grew up privileged. Like, I was able to go to all of the private schools on the south side of Chicago and always had like my parents, weren't immigrants, so we didn't have like that layer to fight against. And I know that I've been privileged, and we talk about how we use that privilege for good. And you guys can totally go check out that episode. So after we posted that, we had some comments, and I thought, yeah, this comment could kick us off. And it's from a Kate Del Camo, or Gallagher, she's married now. She said, this has been an eye-opening time for a lot of people, and it's long overdue. The uncomfortable conversations can teach us so much. And I think that's where a lot of people are right now. Like, it can be uncomfortable to have these conversations, but I think after being uncomfortable comes growth, and that's kind of why we wanted to have this conversation. I mean, I know Amma, Natalie, and Whitney have all been close friends of mine in my different markets, and personally, I feel part Black inside. But I think with all of you, I've had conversations about being a minority woman and all the different cities we've lived in, and I just think, how has this time impacted all of you?
It's weird because people are talking about issues that, you and I and me and people in my life talk about all the time, but now everyone's talking about it. And so it's a little comforting, but it's kind of strange. And I also feel like with my news background, I like to think like it's breaking news to people, like, oh my gosh, Black Lives Matter. And oh my goodness, police are always great to people of color. So it's just like interesting.
I love that you brought up that it feels like breaking news to people, because that's where I'm like, I don't understand why. I mean,
how have you gone your whole life and not known that there's racism today?
and that's a part of privilege, Whitney,
yes,
yes.
Thankfully, I have not had experienced a ton of discrimination, but I know it existed. Like, it happens every single day. I think it's comical sometimes. Today I followed a page on Instagram called Karen's Gone Wild.
Yes, I did too.
I love it. Couple of reasons. Karen's, which is a derogatory term now, apparently, for white women who call the manager.
Or who email newscasters about how much they hate them.
Or email about how I'm dressed and all this kind of stuff. They're very upset right now, and they're literally melting. They're disintegrating as we speak. Okay. It's crazy to me that people really live in bubbles. They really live in their own little corner, in their own little world, like it's Cinderella. And they just don't realize that people are getting discriminated. I think they know it. They just don't want to acknowledge it, because then it disrupts their comfortability. I'm glad they're all uncomfortable, honestly. You need to be uncomfortable because you need to figure it the hell out.
Do you guys have a moment where you've experienced like racism that it like changed you?
Well, I
do.
Go ahead.
Yes, I do. I had experienced it because I worked in a hospital, and I tell you, you come across some people And when they do, like I had to learn to kind of bridle myself, but I say it in a swift way. And I said, I bleed the same way you bleed. And they look at me like, huh? And I said, well, furthermore, my skin is dark, yours is light. And I said, I'm not a prejudiced woman because my mother didn't raise me as a prejudiced person. But like I said, we are co-workers, we work together. And if you can't deal with it, then you know what? You're gonna have to deal with it. And me as a religious woman, I said, well, I put it this way. I pray for you and you keep it moving. Now we all are best of friends. But I laid it out to them. I said, you know what? If you can't accept me, then you know what? Then it's your choice. Because I'm gonna go ahead and do my job.
I feel that like is so New York. Well, I pray for you and you keep it moving.
And you keep it moving. And I think that's the key.
Yes.
Honestly, yes. I won't, I mean, unless you're trying to physically harm me, I don't get up in arms because you don't like my chocolatey, delicious looking skin. I don't get up in arms about that because I know I look good, honey. But you know what I'm saying? But you know, unless you're trying to physically move me, touch me, I dare you. Right. I'm just gonna laugh about it because, sweetie, you are uncomfortable because maybe there's something about me you wish you had. Maybe you wish your skin would turn this way. I don't know. But this hate that you got towards me, you got to go somewhere with that. Move around.
It has to be stressful to be racist because there's so many Black people, maybe not in this country, but like in the whole world, we're everywhere. So it has to be very stressful because we're like, oh, they're everywhere.
No, but it's all, like I said, we have some Puerto Ricans that are dark. And like I said, I have all nationality friends that when you would see, you would think that my girlfriend is Black, but no, she's Dominican and she's dark. Then I have some Spanish people that I went to school with. We all friends and we still all friends. But like I said, you can't judge people. And I mean, and even some of my white friends, we all together, we came from kindergarten on up and we still hang out. Some of us, we work together and we are close. And like I said, they will go off on you just like I will go off. And they will tell whoever. So this is how we are. Mm-hmm. And here in Hoboken, because I live here for all my life. And like I said, I met people all over. And sometimes they ask me questions a lot. And they said, but you don't get upset. I said, well, I'm going to get upset for. Because like I said, as long as you won't touch me, but I tell you like this, I'll tell you my opinion. Yeah. If you like it or not. And, you know, and then they're like, well, you're really truthful. I said, yes, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. This way, what's wrong with you? You feel uncomfortable because you white, Greek, Italian. We all the same. We all striving to make it in life.
Yes. That's so true. We are
and
really all
we are trying, like we have families, we marry. And I love when they get upset. I love when they get upset. I don't know if you, but I like being around people when they get upset because I just pick on them, you know? Like, what's wrong with you? I didn't sleep with you. What's wrong? Good morning. How you doing?
Right.
And they look at me all mean. And then after that, I said, well, God bless you. And they look. Yeah. Then after that, then they get it. Then the next time they said, when I don't say nothing to them, then they said, you didn't say good morning. I said, oh, you can speak. Oh. So you gotta reverse it with some of these people. Yeah, they, you know, sometimes it gets to you, but you know what?
Sandra, you're breaking up a little bit, and
you know, I just look beyond it. I look beyond all these people, and I just said, you know, I'm on. I don't know. I think because my daughter, she couldn't get her phone. She broke her phone. Is her iPad? Apple phone is not working right.
Oh, it's okay. You back now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that we really are all the same, and it's so funny that white people don't think we are, and I just think that's crazy. Like everybody has a crazy relative. Everybody has. You know, we all have barbecues and cookouts. We just call it different stuff. So I just don't understand why my life is not as important as someone else's life, when literally, like you said, we're all trying to make it in this world together.
I wouldn't say like all white people though, because I feel like the white people I surround myself with would like attack someone if they attacked me. You know, I don't think I've experienced racism maybe on the level of some of you guys have, and I really didn't experience it until like I was an adult, and it was in Quincy, Illinois, and I was in, remember Carson Perry Scott?
Bergner's?
Well, it was Carson's in Chicago.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was Carson's in Quincy too. So I was there buying my sister a Michael Kors jacket for Christmas, and there was an old white woman in line, and she looked at me and she was like, Mexicans aren't allowed in Quincy. And I mean, you know, usually pretty spicy and able to, but I was so taken back because I have never been talked to like that. I was just dead silent. And I remember just having like a pit in my stomach that I couldn't believe that a complete stranger who didn't know me already didn't like me just because I was Mexican. It was nuts.
Well, my oldest son, he has a white godmother since she was born. And my other son, his baby mama, well, they're getting ready. She's half white and half black. And like I said, it's people in my family that married to white people, but like I said, Spanish people, some Hapadoro, what else? It's a mix. But you know what? Like I said, anything that you do is like, I don't know. It just seemed like since this Floyd had passed away, it opened up a lot of hearts.
Yes.
It opened up a lot of hearts. My cousin died from the cops in Hoboken. He was 16 years old.
I wondered what year was that, Sandra? That was before I moved here. What year was that?
That was in 2000, I think 2004. He was in Hoboken High School. He was 16 years old. Something went wrong with another kid, and they came and picked him up and brought him to the police station to be questioned. So they called the mother. He went there to the police station. Next minute, no, she knew that he was there. And next minute, no, he wound up drowned with handcuffs on still. And when this had came up with Floyd and they had did the march in Hoboken, and it opened up a can of worms.
Yeah.
So her spirit, my cousin, she is just destroyed. She can't sleep. And like I said, I went with her 3 years ago. We went to the police station in Hoboken to get her son's belongings. They thought they saw a ghost. And we was in that police department for 2.5, maybe about 2.5 hours, trying to get his belonging. And every time a cop came, they looked at us. And I said, what's going on? She still ain't got the paperwork for that. So yes, it was murder. And the way they said that he climbed out from a little small window from the police department in Hoboken. And when you see that that little tiny glass hole, I'm saying, And then you saw the blood that next day coming out from the police station, going up on Washington Street and by the piers in Hoboken, by the waterfront, I think it's A. And I was there. Matter of fact, I was there because I was there when all the cops was looking. Did not know that that was my cousin's son. And I came back down to where I was at in housing, come to find out it was her son.
You know, Sandra, I love that you bring this up because no one in I don't think anybody in Hoboken actually knows that. Like all of the people.
Well, the true Hoboken people know.
They do. But a lot of the people that showed up to protest in Hoboken, I think that just shows that for so long, unless you were a part of the community or you cared about the community, they didn't report on it. And I guarantee
no, some of them did. They reached out to her.
Great.
Yeah, the organization, the person that would organize it, they had called her on the phone, and she met them at the protest because she marched. She was out there. I don't know if you was out there. I was in dialysis, so I couldn't go. I wanted to go, but they told me not to, my family. But they went, and my sons and cousins and all of them was there. So
Hey, Nat.
It was a big turnout.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Natalie, I just wonder, what does it feel like for you, because you have 3 boys that you're raising to be, like, did you have those conversations about police? Is that common?
Absolutely. We had those conversations. Well, I would say when they were going to Ferris State University in Big Rapids, Michigan, that's further up north, and the further up north you get, the scarier it is for Black people. So
yes.
So for me, living in Flint is like a bit of a bubble, because the white people in Flint are different. They will fight for you. They will say something.
Yes.
They won't let anybody say anything to you, and they ride or die. Okay, so and you grow up with these people, yes, and you're with these people every day, so you don't understand how different people could treat you differently, right? But it's from the outskirts, it's from the suburbs, it's not necessarily in Flint. But what I did learn about Big Rapids is that the athletes there, so like the football players, anybody on the hockey team, anybody there at Big Rapids, they do have a relationship with the police. So they already know these kids. So there is no, like, so that made me feel good. But I will tell you a story. Like when I was down there, I was very worried when I was dropping my kids off. And I remember we were riding, like there's downtown is even smaller than downtown Flint, if you can imagine. Downtown Flint is not very large at all. And I had the windows down and I'm riding, and me and my husband are in the car, and there's 2 young white girls. They're walking on the main street, and they were like, I looked over and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And they went, yes, queen, yes, just like that. And I just started dying laughing, because I was like so scared of this community. And these young girls were like, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. And I was like, okay.
That's nice.
Am I being punked?
You know, I felt like they were fine, you know, so, yeah. But that was my prayer, you know, that's something that I prayed for. But I will say, living in the city of Flint, it will make you, not to say that racism doesn't exist, because you do feel it and you can see it. However, like, white people in Flint are different. I mean, I know you know that, Kristen, from like,
Flint, I have never felt more accepted by a community than Flint. And I was in Quincy and Denver, and Denver's a bigger city, but Flint, like I always felt like these are my people. Like even on TV, like they got my jokes, like minority shit. Like sometimes I would say stuff in Denver and I'd get like hate mail. I'm like, no, that's funny. But like the people in Flint, like they just accepted me and they loved me. Like we'd go to the farmer's market, they'd be like, hey girl. It was like, I love Flint so much. And I know, you know, all people know about it really is like the water crisis, but the people that live there, their personalities and the love for their community, like the people who live there love that they're so diverse and want to keep it like that. They don't hate that it's a Black city.
We do. However, I will say, since all these things have happened with obviously it's been happening. Okay. But it took a pandemic for people to sit down and actually pay attention and look and see what happened to George Floyd, right? Because we had nothing else to do but to look at that TV and see what was happening. Because we're so busy with our lives and we're so busy going to work and we're so busy doing stuff. It's easy to get wrapped up in your own mind, in your own life, in your own head, and not care about what's going on in the world. So I said all that to say, it's brought a lot of people that I thought weren't racist to the table that are racist. You know, I even had to tell a client, you know what, don't come back to my business because it's a Black-owned business, honey. Don't come back. For me, don't come back. Have a great day. Your money's no good here. The stuff that she was posting, it really made me feel some type of way. And she was an Asian woman, so that really made me feel like, well, you know what I'm saying? Like it was very heartbreaking because I thought she and I were better than that. And that's really the eye-opening thing. And I will also say, I actually had a conversation today with one of my old coworkers because like I'm used to being literally the only Black girl at the salons every time I go to work. And because my son is tripping right now, sorry guys. But I remember having a conversation with one of the young ladies about Colin Kaepernick, which was how many years ago? 4 years ago, 5 years ago, right? And she kept telling me we got into a heated argument at work, and I didn't talk to her for a long time, okay? And we got into a heated argument because she goes, "My brother's a soldier, and he's disrespecting the flag." I said, "It's not about the flag. That's what you're not getting. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about us, and it's about police brutality and how we're being treated in America. And you're not listening to what I'm saying." And so she was like, "Well, I think it's disrespectful." I said, "It's respectful for him to kneel. Will be disrespectful if he did other stuff." I said, "Is it disrespectful to wear the flag around you on the 4th of July and burn it in your yard and act a fool with it? That's disrespectful, right?" But nobody sees that. And so we had a conversation literally today, and I called her and I said to her, because now she's posting stuff on her Facebook page about Black Lives Matter, and I get it now. And I called her and I said, "You remember the conversation we had about Colin Kaepernick?" And she looked at me and she said, "I get it now. I didn't get it 4 years ago, Natalie, but I get it today." And she said, "I even had a conversation with my racist uncle And me and him are not talking right now because I didn't realize how racist my family really was. And she's from Tennessee, in like some small town in Tennessee. But today, we actually had the conversation today and we both cried because she was just like, I didn't get it. And I get it now, Natalie. And whatever I can do to help fight whatever, I will. And
now, what I will say is having grace for people, even though we don't understand why it took you so long to get it till 2020, baby, you were 70 years old and you still don't understand. Okay. Having grace for people is so important. And because I just know that God has so much grace for me and how often I probably mess up and get, and just go down the wrong direction. So while I am very excited that people are finally listening, they stop taking their selfies and they're paying attention to the call, to the movement. I have to just remind myself, okay, when people have all these questions, I have white friends that call me and they want to know, well, what do I do and how do I do better? Or sometimes, even right now, a lot of people reaching out to me feels disingenuous a little bit because they just know this is the thing to do. I need to tell my Black friends that I care about them. And so all of them are doing it at the same time. I think they all reading the same book and they got the same text messages and they're all sending them to me.
And they're watching The Help.
Right, and they're watching The Help. I mean, there's other movies, baby. There's other movies. Anyways, whole other story.
Can you watch
but having grace for them because they're trying. You know what I mean? And that's important.
Yes, that's good.
I don't want anyone to feel because what makes me feel bad is, or I get concerned is when, did y'all see there was a mayor of some city who came to the rally to say he was with them. He was with Black Lives Matter.
It was in Michigan. It was in Flint, I think, or
was that?
Not Flint. It was in Michigan.
Right, and they were telling him to get out of there because he wouldn't say he wouldn't confirm that he would defund the police.
Oh, that was Minneapolis. The Minneapolis mayor.
And so when I see things like that, it's just ugh.
That was hard to watch.
That's hard to watch, and I understand that Black people are hurting and they're upset and they want a solution and they don't want to have to keep explaining themselves and they don't want to have to keep yelling and screaming. So they just want some answers. She was like, I just want a yes or no answer. Are you gonna defund the police? And that's just not something he could answer right then. You could tell he just couldn't answer it. And they, cussing him and saying, get out of here. And he had to walk away. And it's just I wonder what his conversation was that night with his family about Black people. You know what I mean? And it just feels like this is a time for conversation while we've been trying to have it for millions of years. Just know that the light got turned on and maybe we just have to have it one more time.
It was 400 years, 400 years. Our parents was going through this.
Yeah.
401, as they said.
I love that you talk about grace because I wonder if there's Zoom calls going on with other groups of friends with Black friends that are maybe having these conversations.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
There have been times, I think maybe I was talking to Katie, where I have to MC events and it's predominantly wealthy white women. And I feel like I'm representing every Latino in USA. And I'm like, all right, bro, you got to be on your shit. You got to let them know that, we're not just servers and we can be educated. So be kind. And that's kind of exhausting. Do you guys ever feel like that?
Yes, it is very exhausting. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking over this conversation.
No, girl.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely exhausting, especially as a journalist too, because you really have to toe a line of, do I let these people know how I really feel, or do I just keep it cute and keep it quiet? But a lot of people have just kind of shown me that this is not a political stance. This movement. This is either you are racist or you're not. You want Black people to matter or you don't. There's no, this
Vanity
is
or not. Do you care about a life, or do you care about your? Because guess what? If it was their son, they would burn it down.
Burn it down.
Burn it down. If it was my child, burn it all the way down. Everything.
Yes.
Down.
I recall saying those exact words 2 weeks ago after I was watching the news. Burn it down.
I'm being honest.
No, I mean, but they would. If this was their child, they would burn it all down, and so it's really hard to decide, okay, I'm gonna explain this to you, but then I just have to remind myself, some people just don't know.
Thanks.
Yeah.
They just don't know. And I think it's stupid that they don't know, but I'm gonna I'm gonna explain it to you one more time.
But it doesn't make
what's
it,
it been like covering?
it doesn't make it easier. It does not make it easier because you're Black either. You know, so people think like, oh, you can have these conversations, but it's like, it's very uncomfortable for a Black person at times to be like, okay, so let me tell you about the Black experience, because guess what? Everybody's Black experience is different, right?
It's different.
Thank you.
I had someone ask me one day, actually the other day, what was your first racist experience when you first experienced racism? Kind of like the story that Kristen told. And I had to think about it. And I was like, okay, I remember being little and knowing that, like, okay, people would say, well, you know, white girl's hair was longer or it was better. First, it was a hair thing for me, right? Because my hair didn't swing.
Yeah, Katie, no, the phone is dying now.
I can't.
Yeah,
Well, my hair didn't swing. It didn't do what that girl's hair did. Why is my hair not like that? But my mom was a hairstylist, so she did my hair in a different way to where, like, you know, I started loving my hair and knowing what, you know, but that's how it started. But what made me really think about it, actually, the thought came to me today. When I had my twins, I was 19 years old, and I was at the hospital. And as I was leaving the hospital, the nurse leans over and she says to me, do you want to get a birth control shot? And I said, no, because I want to give my body time to heal before I put all those poisons, you know, whatever. And she goes, well, most of you guys come back pregnant on your 90-day, on your 6-week checkup anyway. So
most of you guys.
She said, so I'm just trying to help you from not getting pregnant again. And I felt like how you did, Kristen, because like I had never had anybody just blatantly say that to me. So I didn't know what to say. I was crippled. You know, I kind of was like, huh?
And it sucks to feel crippled because you really want to.
Yes, especially when that's not you. And I know that's not you, Natalie.
Yeah, and I was 19.
To be like,
now, if she tell me that at 40, oh, it's gonna be a whole different story, and you gonna check me. I was already vulnerable. I was young. You know, of course, I was the typical old woman that was coming there having babies as a teenager. But I was a college student. I was getting my degree. I had a whole, you know, man that wanted to.
And what's crazy is all of you white women, y'all had kids when y'all was 18 too. Like, I don't understand.
I didn't get it. It really hurt my feelings. And I go back and I think like, maybe that's one of the reasons why I waited 18 years to have another baby, you know, because I didn't want to be.
That's trauma. It's trauma. It's like, but it's trauma. Yeah. And I think when in DC, I covered the protests this weekend and I was pretty much done. I was about to go home and then I heard everyone just clapping and going crazy. And the doctors were coming through for their doctor protest and they were saying white coats, Black lives. And I think when you see a doctor saying white coats, Black lives, or a nurse, it means so much today. Not only are we dealing with coronavirus, but we feel belittled when we go to the hospital a lot of times. I know when I was in Denver, my grandmother died right after I started at my job there. And a few months later, I just had this pain in my stomach. And to this day, I don't know why. And I think it all had to do with stress. I knew 100% I wasn't pregnant, but I go to the emergency room. I'm in so much pain. And the doctor is insistent on giving me a pregnancy test. And I'm like, dude, I know where babies come from. I'm not pregnant.
Right.
And it was negative. I wasn't pregnant. And then he's like, well, things happen in your 30s. And I'm like, I'm Black. Your only idea.
Immaculate conception happens. Baby Jesus is in here today.
I'm a Mary.
What is wrong with me? Don't assume I'm pregnant. And I wonder where that assumption comes from. So when you see doctors coming through and saying white coats, Black lives, you just think of all the trauma women have been through. And I think all these protests, the more they go on, I'm thinking it's this much about George Floyd and this much, like maybe this much about police brutality and this much about all the other stuff that we go through.
Correct.
So microaggressions, the big thing, the comments, getting followed in the store, getting looked at in the store, workplace nonsense.
Like it's over.
All of it.
It's time's up.
Getting the police calling you like the lady in Detroit and
I like that.
You know, she went to the mall in Somerset in Detroit area in the suburb and she tried to buy a Louis Vuitton bag and they called the police on her because she had $10,000 to buy it. She had the money and they want to know where the money came from. Why does it matter? I'm buying the bag.
Right.
Turns out she owned 3 nursing homes and she sued. and now she's getting more than a Louis Vuitton bag. So leave people alone.
Yeah, mind your business.
Mind your
Mind
business.
your business.
Mind your business. If you don't learn nothing
epic.
else in 20, listen, growing up black, that's your mama told you, mind your business.
Mind your business. That's one thing.
For white people listening, if you just go hashtag mind your business.
Yes.
All for you guys.
Because honestly, it's about white people being concerned about things that don't have nothing to concern them. Like, go back and have your little macaroni and cheese from Kraft's box and leave them alone.
It's such a fear. It's a fear
I'm
of
worried
like,
about myself and you worried about me.
right. I'm concerned racism is going to get way worse right now because everyone's talking about it internationally. And I think people feel
they're activated. They have been turned on. Yes.
I'm lucky I live in DC. I feel protected here. Before all of this happened, I thought this is a good place to be Black. Regardless of all the DC problems, there's so much drama with Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter Plaza and blah, blah, blah. I still feel safe here. I feel protected. I do feel like I'm in a bubble, but what if you're in the middle of nowhere in some small town, you're the only Black person, the only person of color? This is going to be a dangerous time because everyone feels like a lot of people feel threatened. Like we're not going to be the majority anymore.
Right.
And so it's just a weird time.
White people feel threatened. Police feel threatened. The officer or the union chief or whoever in New York who got up there and was like saying, stop treating us like thugs or like animals, because he's upset that now people are upset with police. I feel like that this whole thing is just going to turn on even more police who feel some kind of way about Black people. And, because I will say this, not all cops, just like not all cops are bad. Just like not all, when people say all lives matter or whatever, we know that. But there are a lot of them that are, and they're doing all this crazy stuff and nobody's checking them. Mm-hmm. And they're taking care of each other and they're not worried about the life that they ultimately take at the end of the day.
The bad apple can taint all the good apples.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said the bad apple can taint all the good apples.
Exactly.
And Chris Rock had a joke about how, of course, not all cops are bad, just like not all airline pilots are bad, but you don't want a few airline pilots who like to fly into the mountains and crash your plane. You want them all to be on the same page. And I feel like it should be way harder to become a police officer. You should have an education, maybe take a lot of psychology classes and learn about race, because not everyone is, I think a lot of people of color are raised in places where you interact with other people of color. So you understand the experience, not only personally, but like you might have like neighbors who don't look like you. But a lot of people weren't raised that way. And so I think you should take classes on race, classes on psychology, get a degree, not just be like physically fit and know how to use a gun and get like recertified once a year. Like, and I don't know the certification, but it has to be harder. It's a very big deal. It's a very important job. I want police around. I want someone to call if I'm in trouble, but I also want to know I'm calling people that are going to help me. Right. And I don't want to have a panic attack. I'm a woman and I get like anxiety when I interact with police, even if they're nice. And they'll be nice to me. And I know like you're cool, but inside there's like anxiety because every time somebody dies and I see the viral video, it like sticks in my mind, even if I don't think about it. It's just there.
I try not to watch them.
I haven't seen the whole George Floyd
I won't watch
video.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought I was the only one. I'm like, I've heard all about it.
When he over here, honey.
When he started calling for his mama, turned it off.
Yeah, I can't watch it.
I could not even imagine.
But all you white people out there, y'all need to watch it. Go ahead and watch it till the end, baby.
Katie, I wonder how you feel hearing this stuff, because I know that you've really gone out of your way to educate yourself. You've taken like African-American courses, Latino courses. So
history. Yeah. I appreciate what Whitney said about having grace for people. So I worked on the South Side of Chicago in a charter school, and part of where I got disenchanted with working there is I felt like I was part of the system, like that well-meaning white person that wants to make a difference, but now I'm being used as part of the system to force these kids to take tests every week and to do things that didn't serve them, but serve the charter school and the white men that were funding the charter school, which felt like an experiment on Black kids in the South Side of Chicago. And knowing history, I mean, you talk about the medical industry. if you know the history and what has happened to Black people under the United States government and medicine, of course, there should be distrust for you guys. And it doesn't surprise me to hear you talk about your experience, knowing that that is the history of our country. And so I'm just happy that we can provide a platform for people. I do appreciate, though, the perspective of Grace, because I get frustrated of like all the white people on my Facebook talking about white fragility. Like, you just now reading it, or like some of these documentaries that when they first came out, like this is how they see us. Like, I watched it when it first came out. And so I think I get a little frustrated of these people.
When they see us?
Yeah, when they see us.
Girl,
that was hard.
I didn't finish it.
I only watched the first episode.
I watched the first episode and I could not do the second one. I tried the second one and I bawled my eyes out.
And chills now just talking about it. That was hard. I should watch that.
Y'all need to watch it.
I'm afraid to watch it because I watched the documentary. This is the Central Park 5 guy.
Yes.
I saw the documentary that came out years ago and I was like crying. So I'm like, I can't watch an Ava DuVernay like these. I can't even.
Yeah, that does something to your whole soul.
Yeah. Or like someone saying like, watch the Fires Everywhere, whatever that one is, which I started watching because I hadn't actually heard of that one, but that one's not a documentary yet. But a lot of the things that people could have watched years ago, I think I feel a little bit of that frustration because I've worked in nonprofit organizations that serve Black populations. So I'm like, you're just now doing.
They didn't have this pandemic to have them sit down and pay attention.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what you were saying too, Katie, about like the healthcare, and also, I literally like found a Black OBGYN because I have so much distrust for having a white doctor work on me, because I don't want somebody to discount my feelings. I don't want somebody to just say, oh, you're fine, and then they just keep going. Because I did take a healthcare disparity course when I do have my degree from University of Michigan in healthcare administration. And one of those courses we had to take there was, it was called, I can't remember, but it was I can't remember the name of it right now off the top of my head, but it was one of my favorite courses. But it talked about like racism and the history and like in the medical field, and showing a Black man go to the doctor and saying, my heart hurts, same motions, making the same gestures, and they almost never got referred to another doctor. They were always like, oh, you're fine. But the white man always got referred to another doctor, to a heart doctor, to a cardiologist or whatever. And we didn't. It still would boggle my mind as I sat there. And then in those classes, it would be 3 Black people, and they'd be like, so tell us. So, and then it'd be like 75 white people looking at me like, so.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Waiting for me to say something.
How does this make you feel? I'm like, well,
makes me feel like I don't want to be here with y'all right now.
Speak for the race, please.
It was called Cultural Competence in Healthcare. That's what it was called. And it was 2 semesters. It wasn't 1, it was 2. And in that class, they did that experiment where they put you in the back of the room, and we did that exercise where they said, okay, if you answer these series of questions, if these questions pertain to you, move forward. If they don't, then stand back. And so they say, have you ever been afraid to be pulled over by the police? All the white people step forward. We're still standing back there. And then they started asking these series of questions. And so when all these white people were in front of us, they said, now turn around. And they turned around, they looked at us, and we just all looked at each other. It was silent. It was silent. And she said, you know what? You see what, this is privilege. And this is why, see how they're all the way back there? They have to run 10 more laps than you do just to catch up.
Yep.
You know, and they talk about redlining from homes and you know, not being able to live in certain neighborhoods, not being able to get those loans for those homes that you want to live in those neighborhoods. So my generation and in my family is the first generation to ever even own a home. So it's going to take us years to catch up.
Sure.
Because so what you see now is that people are saying, well, you're fine, you're doing great. Yes, but my grandma didn't do fine. My mama was drinking out of the color fountain. My mama, not my grandma. So my mom got sprayed by water hose, not my grandmother. My grandmother got beat up walking to school on the wrong street.
It's the generational trauma, and it trickles down.
Ooh. And just to think about when my grandma came to my wedding reception, she looked at me. My grandma she passed away this year. She was 93 years old. And she looked at me and she was smiling and she said, you got to be special, baby. And I said, why? And she said, all these white folks at your wedding.
Wow.
And it was just like, Grandma, they're my friends. And she was just looking at me like, huh?
Like how? How do you?
Because she didn't know anything about that.
I wish Sandra was still here. I think her phone died, but Sandra grew up in, almost in New York, in Hoboken, the other side of the river. And to hear her talk about her white friends and going to school in Hoboken, like Hoboken's not the same as it was, but when she was there, it was, it's great to, I don't know, it just felt great to hear that Sandra had just such a different experience. She's a grandmother. She's lived some life.
It is crazy though how recent the stories are. I think it's so easy to think slavery happened so long ago, and then the pictures of Martin Luther King are black and white, so that happened so long ago. And then just like the other few years ago, we had a black president, but it's like, no, like the trauma that people like Black Americans
got integrated into schools, she's just turned 60 something.
Yeah.
Like
right.
They young. It's still this was just yesterday.
Modern day history.
My mother-in-law was like that second group that went, and she's in her 60s, and she moved to Chicago from St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, and she was in that second group of people, like maybe the third or fourth year, and it was horrible still.
Right.
It was no progress.
And so for the white people who have friends that are successful, that are black, they don't see, well, what's the problem? I gotta, especially
You made it.
Yeah, especially when I'm on TV, they're like, "Oh, it's fine. Black people are good."
But I get paid pennies, honey, compared to my white counterparts.
I didn't feel behind till I worked in Denver, and I grew up in Denver, and then I worked in
a lot of things in Denver, but this is not the time or place. Continue, sorry.
We can do a whole podcast about Denver, and I want to be the main speaker, and I'll speak for days. Anyways, just when I started, I worked in 2 newsrooms there, and that's when I realized, and again, you shouldn't compare your life to other people's, but I'm like, I'm behind. And so at my last job, I started thinking about money, and I was like, I need it, and I don't mean it in a greedy way. I don't need to buy anything fancy. I need it. I need it. I'm actually a first generation American. My parents are from Africa. So for them to come to this country isn't a culture shock for them.
If you don't mind asking. My husband's father is from Ghana. Yes.
We're cousins.
We're going to Ghana 2021, hopefully, if
Really? You're just waiting for pandemic to be over?
Wait for Corona to, go on.
Corona.
Make her
I know NBC just did an awesome special about Black Americans moving there. It's posted on their Twitter. Did you watch it?
I did not, but a woman from Flint moved there 20 years ago, and she loves it, and she does never want to come back here ever.
Watch it. Okay, they're very short, so they're watchable and very well done. Anyways, so I just realized I need money for myself, my future, and in our culture, and in a lot of other cultures, you help your parents.
Yes.
I love how white kids, when they graduate from high school, their grandparent might get them a car or something, or a trip to Europe, and it's oh, in our culture, when you graduate, it's what can you give me? You graduated now. What can you give me? So I just really started thinking about money and opportunity in my last job. And that is that was my drive to leave Denver, because I realized I'm behind all of these people. And some of these people I work with, they can live cheaply, and they can kind of take it easy because they have something somewhere to fall back on. Whereas I'm and I'm blessed. I have a sister who has a really good job, and she let me stay at her house when I was in Denver. But I'm I don't want that to be my future. And I was I'm on Hinge during the pandemic, don't judge. But I was talking to a guy yesterday, and we got on the topic of sports, and we were talking about NFL. And I said, I was so taken aback when I lived in Denver, and this quarterback, Von Miller, he would not sign a contract with the Broncos until he got paid this crazy amount of money. And the Broncos made him an offer, and he's no, you're going to pay me this much, or I'm not playing for the Broncos. And I remember in the newsroom, the conversation in our news meetings were how ungrateful, how petty is that? He's so young, he's getting so much money, he should stop being greedy. That's just disrespectful. And I'm you don't know where this kid from Texas comes from. You don't know who he's supporting. You don't know maybe how far behind his family is, and how big of a deal this money is going to be for generations. And
or what he's paying off. Mind your business.
Or what his white
Mind your
counterparts
business.
pay.
Mind your business. You don't know how I spend my money.
Mind your
Exactly.
business.
And I am of the belief that a Black person, or any person of color in this country, money isn't everything, but I think we should really fight to get as much as we can, because we are behind. And you can, like, no matter how good of a Black family you come from, how prestigious they are, we are still behind because of all the like systemic crap.
Correct.
So get as much as you can, and don't let anyone
Grab the bag, honey.
I mean, even as women, we're behind when it comes to
Yes.
money.
Yeah.
There's a book by Nika, what's her face? She's the newscaster. I think it's on Fox.
Yes.
Know Your Worth. And when I got into the business, my dad got it for me, and it's so good. She talks about female CEOs and like founders of organizations, and just about like when they realized that they were getting paid less than their male counterparts. And one part that I love, and that's, she talks a little bit about how men are more likely to work like 3 months somewhere and be like, yeah, I need a raise, where women are like, I'm going to work 12 hours a day, and they're going to see how hard and how much I'm worth. And we never do. And we have to go in there and be like, give me this money because this is what I'm worth. So I look at us, it's like we're minority and we're women. It's like a double whammy. So I feel very aggressive, yes, about getting the money that I deserve.
Yes.
And I can even say that from being,
you gotta take it.
yeah, and I can even say that from being, like, I worked in corporate America before. I used to be a director of an assisted living. However, now I own a nail salon, and I had to realize in my own mind, right? Because you have these own ideologies in your own mind as well, right? Black doesn't mean cheap, okay? Because I'm a Black business doesn't mean that my services have to cost less than anybody else. But by me working and being the only Black person at a white salon before, I learned that I'm charging what I'm worth.
Yes.
And if you don't pay it, somebody else will.
And she's done my nails. She's worth every penny.
Period, poo. You know, and I use like vegan, non-toxic polish, all that stuff, right? So for me, like, I charge what I'm worth, and it took me so long to do that. And I don't know if it was, like I said, my own ideologies in my head, you know, society or whatever it was.
Because you feel like, oh, nobody's gonna buy my stuff if I don't do.
Yeah, like it's so weird. And I'm like, why'd I even, and then I had a lady came and talked to us about like knowing your worth. And she said, who are you to tell somebody what they can afford?
If they can't afford you, they can go somewhere else.
Yeah,
and always somebody who can afford you.
I have no problem telling people that I can't afford them. Okay.
I have no problem telling people anything.
I mean, I've had a couple ex-boyfriends I couldn't afford. Divorced one.
So, you know, I mean, for example, there was a gym that I wanted to go to. I mean, you know, the point is you pay for what you can pay for.
Right.
You're going to pay for what you want to pay for.
Right.
And people make budgets. And if they can handle it, they can handle it. And if you don't like this price, go find somebody else down the street.
Or save up for next month.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to, you charge for what you want in your salon too. And sorry, I don't want a $20 gel manicure, girl.
I was trying to be cheap when I got to DC, and I live right by Howard University. So I was like, there's a salon by the university. Let me go there. And they charged not a lot, and they got my hair done. But the process of doing my hair was traumatic. When they were combing my hair, I felt like I was going bald. And I had to tell the young college girl, do you think maybe you can just like comb it like this? So I went to another salon, which is a lot more expensive. And I felt like, I can't afford this. Like my rent's so high, but it was worth it. And now I miss my hairdresser so much, and I wish I could have quarantined with her. And she is the only person I care about in the city because my hair is suffering. But like, you pay for what matters. And I was paying not so much for a nice hairdo, but like suffering in the process. And I think people can do it. And if you're Black, you really have to remind yourself, like, I'm worth it, and I'm going to charge this much. Yeah. And I deserve to pay this much.
And do you guys remember that? Everyone here has seen Selena, right? If you haven't, I don't know if we're friends anymore, but remember the scene where they try to sell her the dress and they're like, it's $500. And she's like, we don't want it. That's okay. No, thank you. I had a scenario like that with a Bible. Oh my God. So I went to this by the hospital where I was going for outpatient. I wanted to get a new Bible. And so there was like a used Christian Bible store. I'm like, there it is. So I walked in and the lady's like, how can I help you? I'm like, oh, I'm here looking for a Bible. She's like, what kind of Bible? I'm like, the ones you read. I didn't know what the fuck she was asking.
Bible, girl.
I know. And so she showed me these one. It was this really nice leatherback one. She's like, what about this one? I'm like, perfect. And she's like, okay. She's like, it's $50. Can you afford this? I'm like, no, you didn't. We're working in a place of God. And I was like, yep. I was so tempted to be like,
And if I can't,
Bibles,
we'll
bitch.
provide.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, but
you know, my stepmom always says to people like
I was
that.
like, all right, I'm representing every Mexican she's ever known in her life. And I was like, yes, I can afford a $50 Bible. But really, Kristen inside's like, bitch, no, just order on the
You did not
Amazon.
give her your money. You gave her
Download
the
the
money.
Bible on your phone
Yeah,
for
I'm
church.
so
You don't
petty.
need
I'm
leatherback.
so petty. I would have gave her $200 and told her to keep the change. That's how my stepmom always said to me, "It's just money."
My stepmother
I
never
don't
said that
believe
to
in
me.
giving my money.
I
I
would
like
not do that.
It's just
I like
money.
to
I would have been.
I'm on that same team. Like, no.
This girl,
don't give her your
listen.
money.
This girl said I owed her some money. She was super petty, and I know I didn't. And she said, "You owe me $200." I cashed after 4. I said, "Obviously, you need it more than I do. Have a great life."
I'm stunned right now because I don't operate
This
that
is what
way.
Natalie's
sorry,
doing.
I'm
I'm
petty.
giving out
I'm-
$400. Bitch, you owe me 20
You
bucks
owe me.
too.
You owe me
I'm gonna start
$400.
sending you some cash
Uh,
app.
I said, I said, you clearly need it more than I do, baby.
I do
great
need it more
day.
than you do.
You remember
probably.
that 400 you owe me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
give
me
you 800.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna give you 800 for your 400. I'm petty like that because you don't.
Well,
don't
go
text
ahead,
me
be
about
petty
no-
like that with me. I don't believe in giving people who don't deserve money.
Bless
And
her. I
when
blessed her.
You did bless
I
her.
blessed
Praise God. When I like to take the pretty woman approach, okay? I like
Yeah.
to come
Big
back
mistake.
with all my bags.
Huge.
Big mistake.
Hey,
Huge.
Big
Huge,
mistake.
huge mistake.
Oh my
Big.
God.
I love it. Okay, but if you want to send me $800, I'm here for it, honey, because you
Yeah.
know I am a Black woman, not making a lot of money in this
Yes.
city.
Same.
Making my way downtown.
Oh my God. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you guys have anything last you want to say? Besides, we all need your checkbook, Nat.
your cash
Don't
app
be
name.
like that. Don't.
My
don't do
Cash
me
App
like that.
name is I think it's Whitney on TV.
Where
Cash
can
App
people
me.
find you guys on social media?
What's my Cash App name? Hold on, I need to
I'm
tell.
about to tag my Cash App instead of my social media name. I'm just kidding.
Look,
You're gonna go broke showing everybody what a baller you are.
$2 and
Oh, I'm not a baller, but if you get petty with me, I'm gonna be.
I got
I'm
$2.
going to find you and I will get petty with you.
This
And,
lady's raising 3
I have some
sons.
bills to pay.
Stop it.
I have
She was petty.
$2.72 in my Cash App. Okay, so I
I'm not even gonna show you what's in my Cash App because then y'all gonna be like, I ain't got. Send me $20.
WL.
What is Cash App? Is that like Venmo?
All right,
Yes.
it is, and I don't
Yes.
have it either.
I'll send you a request so I can get free $5. Hold on.
What you want, girl?
Cash app.
I'll tell you. Denied, declined. No,
I'm about to
Invite
Cash
friends.
App everybody. This is my Cash App.
I just joined the other day, speaking of hair, because I can't walk into a salon and get shampoo anymore. So I'm like really suffering first world problems. So I had to get a Cash App and have the hairdresser deliver it to my apartment. Hence, I washed my hair today. So I have Cash App now.
You're a step ahead of me. I have not washed my hair today.
Well, there was a lot going on. I was getting Bob Marley.
Well, Katie, I got a question. This is like a legit white girl question. So,
Ooh.
like, have you rolled the wave now? Because I got a lot of white friends that are not washing their hair every day anymore. They're like, I wash it every 2 weeks now or once a week. I'm like, we've been doing that.
Yeah.
Same. I've been doing that as well. I've got curly hair twice a week.
I worked at a hair salon. So they would come up to me and go, Natalie, so I haven't washed my hair in like a week. I was like, okay, it's been like 14 days for me. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's at least 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's like that's
Yeah,
normal.
oh,
And they're
yeah,
like,
no.
your hair it's so dry when you don't wash it every day. I go,
Okay, but black hair and white hair is different. We need grease in our hair. Y'all make grease every day.
right. But they're riding the wave now of like not washing it because it's healthy. I'm like, yes, you don't have to wash it every
That
day.
is called equality.
I have
Yes.
thicker hair. Kristen, you don't wash your hair every day either.
No, Latinos
I
have
think
like a lot of us have like really coarse hair. It's not as like coarse as like a black woman's, but it's not thin. So I wash my hair like once a week as well. Today I like got dressed and Darren's like, "Oh, you look nice." I was like, I showered and I put deodorant on. I love you.
I just have all the frizz. Like you have the great smooth Latina hair.
I
got
think
all
that's
the
just because
frizz.
it's starting to get a little greasy, but I won't wash it again until I go back home to
I
Chicago.
wonder what DC will do to your hair. I wonder what it will do to my hair because it's super muggy and humid.
Well,
So
I
you
grew up
put
in humidity in Chicago, so it just gets really
Oh.
froey.
Yeah.
Like for me, it gets just like really big and like
Yeah.
my little
So you
baby
gonna need
hairs
a
spike up
protective style,
everywhere.
honey.
Huh?
No, Alma's gonna need a protective style.
I was
Yeah.
doing flat twists until Rona ruined everything.
Yeah, well, Rona's over here. Well, it ain't over, but they
Whitney,
act,
don't say that because then people already think Rona's over. You should see the people turning up.
no, they act like it's over. They all outside right now at the
They're going to
bar,
the strip
and I'm
club
like,
in Detroit, and the strippers got masks on that set it up.
I miss Michigan so much. There's
They
no
got a
place
flyer.
like it.
They got a flyer, and the girls are like this, and they're like studded masks.
no,
Yeah.
honey.
Yeah,
I think this is where we
They've been
end.
suffering. Strippers been suffering during the pandemic.
Strippers are essential, okay? They need
Right, they're
to
essential.
dance.
Strippers been suffering during this pandemic. Y'all don't hate on the stripper now.
Listen, some people
All
need to
those men
perform.
stuck at home with their wives. I'm kidding.
Actually, that's true. That's true.
Oh
It
my,
is
I've had
true.
so much fun. Thank you guys so much for coming. We could talk
Thank
about
you,
strippers
ladies.
for
It was so
hours.
great.
I know we could.
Natalie, we have to have you back on for a full show. I'm on you too.
Yes.
Whitney, we'll just, reshare you on a Thursday.
We already had you on.
We already had you, so go check her out if you're listening right now.
Been used.
All 200 people that follow us. Speaking of following us, if you could give us some love on the Apple Podcast, iTunes, I think is what the kids are calling it. If you could give us a review, that would also be really great. I'm actually talking to our audience, but if you guys on here that are looking really intently at me can do that as well, that'd be amazing as well. We have one review right now, so you
We
guys,
do? What does it say?
well, go check it out. It says that they're so
Where's the
glad-
review at? We ain't got time for me to go find it.
at Outstanding Women Leaders on iTunes.
Oh,
I did see 5 stars when I downloaded it.
5
so.
stars. That's right. Keep it
Yeah.
up. Kristen,
I like to think I had something to do with that, honey.
You know what I'm saying, Whitney?
Oh my god, you guys sound like when Latinos do the gritos, like the I can't do it.
You can't do it, Kristen.
No,
Girl.
don't shame me. How
Don't
dare
be-
I?
don't
can
get-
do-
don't
I
get
can roll my
kicked on
tongue.
the
Yeah.
Facebook Live.
I watched Coco this morning too.
I watch
Oh,
Coco over 15 times, and I cry every time when
I
you
need
think
to
Liz
know how to
Abuela.
protect my peace. I don't want to cry. Okay,
I lose
You've
it when I
never
watch
seen
Coco.
Coco, Whitney?
I haven't seen
I
it.
haven't seen
Watch
it.
Coco tonight,
seen
Whitney.
her.
It's gonna touch your heart.
I've only seen it in
Oh,
Kristen.
good.
I'm trying to
Stories.
stay away from feelings.
Remember me.
Oh yeah. Oh no, Pollo Loco is my favorite one. It's so good. It'll make you want to. It'll make you want to call her abuelita and give her a hug.
Yes.
Before I started watching, I'm like, I need to call my grandma.
Oh, my grandma.
We should watch it and do a podcast on Coco.
We should. Coco's the bomb.
Yes,
Okay, well,
that'll be your episode, Amma.
That'll be your episode. We'll talk about Denver, Coco, and Walter.
No, and Hinge.
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 How is Hinge right now?
Amma
Oh,
was
yeah.
my hinge girl in Denver.
I'm gonna write a book because I've had a wild ride. It's not a good ride.
wild ride.
I mean, there's nothing like
Mama.
there's nothing like looking up a cute guy on Hinge, actually matching with him. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. Am I being catfish? Then you guys talk on the phone, and then when he calls you on this like house party app, you get his first and last name. And you're like, oh, let's Google him. And then you Google him, and you're like, what? 2 rape charges.
Rape charges.
Ay, Dios
2
mío.
rape charges in Wake County, North Carolina.
Oh, we're gonna put his business out there today on the live. Okay. Baby.
She didn't say his name.
Mm-mm.
Wayne County.
And you have no one to call, and you want to call your friends like, oh my god, and then you just don't know what to do. So it's been a wild ride.
I cannot wait to watch this show because I want to.
2020 is wild.
Let me tell you.
Right? Where you could just get these guys on Hinge and they think they're meeting up with you for a date and then they jump out of the bushes and they get him for, is he like a warrant out for his arrest? I have follow-up questions.
Well, we disconnected when I saw the two mugshots. I was like, oh,
They were
Yeah.
mug shots.
yeah, girl, you got to Google, and the first thing that comes up in images.
The tea, honey.
Right.
Right.
So I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna write a book.
Yeah.
Yes,
You gonna call it
Wait for
unhinged?
our
What are you gonna
podcast.
call it? Unhinged?
yes, unhinged.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I'm thinking
during
about
the
just.
pandemic.
I'm thinking about becoming a nun after this. I think
No.
I need to become a nun.
No, you don't need to be
No,
no nun.
Amma, you're amazing and beautiful. God has somebody for you.
Bless
That's
your
not nice of
heart.
to say to your
Thank you.
friends. Don't
I
say
was
that.
on Hinge forever too, remember? And then Darren and I actually matched on Hinge.
You never told me that.
Yeah.
I met my man
No.
old school in the club.
See, Natalie, I can't.
I know this bitch.
I need to not social distance because that might